IPMNation.com.
Live from the Outpost Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Good evening. I know that's a crafty bit of gymnastics right there, isn't it? Good evening and welcome. Thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us for the 376th episode. Hard as it is to believe, no one more surprised than I am. The 376th episode of the number one rated show here on IPMNation.com. You're in to All Natural Being. And the gong, as you just witnessed, always live. If you hear that gong, it's going down with this mallet. The gong heard round the world. Broadcast as it happens, thanks to our good friends at Telestream's Wirecast. I guess you could say you could even blame the good people at Telestream's Wirecast for those of you listening that are not a fan, and we know you're out there. Either way, right here on IPMNation.com and now multicast live, thanks to our Crackerjack staff, on Facebook and over at allnaturalbeing.com and on our Brian Brawdy app as well. But however you come to hang with us, we're always, let me get rid of this, we're always pumped to have you live from the Transitional Radio Uplink here in a suburb of beautiful Columbus, Ohio, with rebroadcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, you know, the list of usual suspects, wherever you're getting our show from. Always broadcast live. Soon, not to be on Twitter. Oh, don't cry for me, Twitter. Guess they're in trouble today. Stock took a dive. Greetings wherever you are. Just like me to rub salt in an open wound. Here in the Garden of the Mortals, the labyrinth of life itself, your shot at running the table, at leveling out where you see fit. You don't need permission from anyone, let alone Twitter. You're going to retweet. Here's your chance to be mouth-watering to yourself once again. It's in your blood. Now you just have to get your mind on board and remember it. That's why we're here, to be your amnesia buster, your friendly blue force, always putting, as you know now, your heart's highest priority top of the list, no matter what all your critics say. We're reinstalling and reinstating the true wit, wisdom, and wallop of your inner whisper. Rebooting your robust, finding your ferocious, commencing your counterpunch. I just love that. All in time to out-brutal the brutal. That is the cut and shuffle that fate can deal you on a daily basis, and to once and for all bring your own bold. But before we hit it this evening, hello to my friends here in the United States and, of course, in Canada, Mexico, the UK, my good friends in Ecuador, China, the Philippines, Brazil, India, Australia, Germany, Italy, France, Nigeria, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, Belgium, Sweden, Israel, South Africa, Egypt, Puerto Rico, Kenya, the Netherlands, Iran, Colombia, Greece, Ireland, Argentina, Peru, Austria, Poland, to those joining us from all over the globe. It's great to have you with us And I truly am fired up. This is a very special show tonight. But even so, still fired up to be driving your bandwagon, to be your virtual hitchhiker. And if you're out and about on the go, you know what I love? I say this every night. You know what I love about riding shotgun with you? Getting to hang with you. So what are you and I waiting for? Here's our opportunity to mortal up. It's time to it's time to love the way you think. It's time to be your all-natural being. So what do you say? Let's go kick in some doors. And I want to get to our first caller right away this evening because I'm hoping that it's going to be a very special guest. Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who's this?
Hi, Brian. Ken Ratliff here.
Hey, Ken, I'm just getting ready to brag about you, so hold on for a minute. Nice, great to hit a call time. I bet you Wayne wishes he could work with you all the time because now that's how you hit a call time. But in the interest of full disclosure, we're going to be on tonight with Ken Ratliff. Everyone should know, yes, it's true. We're both Milton, I think it's Greyhounds, right, Ken? Milton Greyhounds? Greyhounds. We went to Milton High School, Milton, West Virginia, together. And Ken is a current public school superintendent, a county-wide public school superintendent. And I'll tell a quick story and then introduce Ken to everyone else. And why this was so important to me, my second oldest son came home the other day, and they had an active shooter drill at their school. Active shooter, violent intruder, a drill. You have to do this, you have to do that, all those kind of things. And he came home, and we were talking just before he went to bed. You all know him. He's on from time to time making a cameo. You all know Blyden. He was mortified. He was just terrified. He goes, well, why would people come into a school? Why would people do that? Why do we have to practice these drills? Are there really people that are really that bad out there? What is going on? So I thought, who better to answer those questions? Who better to go, hey, look, what are we really doing when it comes to that? Then, of course, Ken Ratliff, he's also, in addition to being a school superintendent, he's also the brains, he's also the inventor, the brains behind Window Armor, which I'm such a huge fan of. So, Ken, let's get right to you. Good evening, brother. Thank you for joining us, because this is a question every parent wants to know. If you got kids in public schools, why should they be scared to be schooled? And what's going on? Why are we doing drills in schools that when your little ones come home, they're petrified. They're terrified. So I wanted to come right to the expert. You are that expert for me. Ken, what's going on?
Well, those are valid concerns, and I think schools have to really handle these kind of drills with a lot of thought and consideration for the developmental stages of the different kids. So I think the involvement in what you say and do with kids would be different for elementary kids, say K through 4, than what it would be for middle school kids that will say 5 through 8, or high school will say 9 through 12. So we got to be careful with the young kids. We don't want them being terrified of school. Statistically, this is still a very low possibility of occurrence. However, that doesn't mean we don't prepare.
Sure.
We've got to prepare. I just want to make sure we're telling kids what's important with those. What do you think is the most important for those young kids to do, Brian, in a situation where you might have an active shooter or hostile intruder? What do you think is most important for those kids to do?
Well, I would think, and I don't know, I'm not the expert. You are. I would think trust the adult in the room. Trust your teacher, right? That's my thought.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
That's exactly it. We got to be careful about how we're exposing these kids. We want them to listen to what we're doing. So the state requires us to have these drills.
Okay.
And I just think there needs to be a little conversation with the kids. We don't need to tell them all the details. We say, we're going to do these different drills. We have to do fire drills. We have to do tornado drills. We have to do drills for all sorts of things. So what I want you to do in these drills is understand I'm going to make sure you're safe. You listen to what I tell you to do. I'm not sure that they need to hear much more than that. I don't think there's any reason to say, in case somebody came in the room and started shooting at everybody. I don't think we need to say that, frankly.
Well, let me say hello to everyone here in the thread, and then I want to get to another question, which I think is important, Ken, is to why you're where the rubber meets the road 5 days a week, if not more, when you take in extracurricular activities and everything else. why are you in this position? But let me say quickly, good evening to John and to Jamie and to Heather and to Kathy. Wayne, thank you so very much. Yes, a little bit too much NyQuil tonight, a little slow on the buttons. I'm telling you, this, whatever this is I have is kicking the living daylights out of me. Alice, nice to see you. Heather, good evening to you as well. Jamie, nice to see you. Candace, nice to see you. Rita, nice to see you. Shane Phelps, Shane 2020, nice to see you as well. So, Ken, you're kicking around. I know you're former Golden Gloves. You're like a big-time bass fisherman and everything else. You're a district-wide superintendent. How did you get into, I mean, other than it's a passion, how did you get into the safety behind protecting individual classrooms? What's your story?
Well, so clearly we've got these shooter situations across the country. So this moves up on school district superintendents' priority lists and wanting to make sure we're prepared for this. And there's different programs, protocols. A very common protocol would be the ALICE protocol, which is an acronym that stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. So, you know, you have to do these drills. You got to do the things to prepare, whether it be technology, implementation, making sure you're just prepared for these kind of situations. So everybody's doing it. Some are doing it better than others. I think if you're sending your elementary kids out terrified and about an active shooter coming in their school, you're not really handling it properly. I think at upper grade levels, it's okay to discuss. It's also okay with the younger grade levels if you ask them, show them how to deploy some technology, whether it's a secondary locking system or like the window armor system where you slide the shutter off and you show them a line maybe on the floor or an imaginary line that says, hey, when we say lockdown, you're going to get behind this line.
Sure.
Those kind of things. I think procedurally it's okay. I just don't think you want to overblow it. We have to do this in case someone comes in and starts trying to kill everybody.
Sure. Oh, so let me ask you then, since, as you know, I've said, when I first learned about window armor, yeah, I dig you. You're my friend. Yeah, you're the inventor. Well, I really liked it. But that very next day, I went into, I have kids in 3 schools. And I went into the first 2 and said, look, we got to talk about this. What are you doing to protect? And I've learned so much from you just in the time we've had to interact. So my first question to you is, do you use these in your own school district?
So, as we start figuring out what technology we want to deploy, we had a conversation about secondary locking systems, and other superintendents were there, and we were discussing this. And, you'd have different door configurations, Brian. So some doors open in, some doors open out. Some doors are more modern than other doors. They have different types of lock sets, the ability to lock it from the inside of the classroom or not. And so you have to evaluate your circumstances individually and make decisions. Everybody was talking about these secondary locking systems, and I said, to me, the biggest vulnerability is that window in the classroom door. That's a higher priority for me than a secondary locking system.
Okay.
And so in that discussion, I said, I conceive of some sort of shutter system here that you slide over, it covers the window and locks it in place. And, the people there, they're listening, they're kind of, and then change the subject, they go back to talking about secondary locking systems. Okay, That's okay. I don't mind. So I started working with a local industry, a local manufacturer with their engineers to develop this system, and this discussion took place with the superintendents in January of 2017.
Okay.
By December of 2017, I had these things developed and rolled out in my school. So I had it all on all my doors in my school. In February of 2018 is when Parkland, Florida happened. And in Parkland, Florida, that shooter, amongst killing people in corridors and other spaces, he went classroom to classroom in 4 different classrooms and shot occupants through the window of that classroom door, and then turned around and went right back through the same doors again. So at that point is when I knew, look, I've got to pursue this. I've got to get these in classrooms across the country because it'll save lives. It'll give peace of mind to the teachers, parents, and administrators for this. So that was kind of the inspiration of that.
And for me,
I
Ken,
won't
if I
go
could
on.
interrupt, for a second, one of the things that I think is so cool about your invention is that everyone thinks, oh, well, will it stop this bullet? Will it stop a howitzer? Will it stop, a torpedo from an F-16, right? So you designed it with edge gauge steel to retard a good number of smaller rounds. But what fascinated me about it was that no one can punch through. Right? People say, oh, well, why don't I just pull a curtain? The shooter can't see in. Let me say hi quickly to Henry and to Kelly, and to Jenny. Jenny's got a great comment here in the thread. She says, great to hear from someone responsible for children's safety in the schools. Well, let me tell you, Jenny, one of the things that I thought was so cool about window armor is that you can't punch through this window and then reach around, unlock the lock. Everyone's, oh, we need a bigger deadbolt. No, I need to break the window, reach around, unlock the deadbolt, then I'm in. And the sad thing is, I've been studying criminal minds for 30 years as an ex-cop. I can tell you, what's that old saying, Ken? They asked the guy, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Well, in the criminal mind, why do you go into schools? Because that's where the human targets are. Right? So if you can block their vision, and you can keep them from punching through, unlocking the door, and then have everyone what? Lying on the ground. An easy target. That's what I love about window armor, is that once you slide this thing shut, it just looks like the room's dark. And they can try to shoot through, so what? Who cares? They can't punch through this thing, reach around, unlock the door, and then have all these targets. Talk about sitting ducks. So, but here's the other thing I wanted to ask you. We don't train teachers. I want teachers to be versed, in my opinion, reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? I don't expect them to be mixed martial artists. I don't expect them to be Golden Gloves like you are. Is it really our position that we expect our teachers, if a bad guy or a bad girl, don't want to mansplain, if a bad guy or a bad girl compromises a classroom door, we've got patrolmen with badges and guns that are hiding outside, afraid to mix it up with shooters. You look at Florida, you look at Vegas, you look at some of these other places. These are allegedly cops that don't even want to mix it up. Is it really our position that teachers are all of a sudden going to jump? God love them if they do, but we can't expect that of teachers. Is that even fair?
So, that's a good point. And really, when I talk about my inspiration, that was where the discussion began. But you do this training with teachers, and I take it very seriously. We would take a day. We bring area first responders in that dress up like bad guys, have weapons, blank guns, shoot the guns. No kids are here, by the way, when we're doing this. We want teachers to respond and not have to refer to any kind of sheep. They need to know the things they're going to do. And it's this Alice protocol. It's alert. You need to alert everyone around you that there's a shooter.
Sure.
And then you need to lock down. There'll be a lot of teachers that will be in classrooms if something like this occurs. So they need to lock down, and what all is involved in lockdown. And then we would talk about inform, so you're going to let everybody in the building, maybe through a PA system is how we do it, let everybody in the building know they need to lock down. And then you have this counter part. And so as you're talking about this, you tell the teachers, go in your room, lock your door, close the door. It should be locked all the time. Put paper over your window. Get your kids back away from the door. And then the next sentence would be, but if that intruder breaks that glass and tries to reach in and grab that handle to gain access to your classroom or extend a weapon through that busted glass to start shooting around the classroom, a disgruntled husband, might he do that and not care who else dies?
Well, Ken, let me just interrupt quickly. We look at the most recent shooting, at least workplace violence in Chicago. It was a disgruntled fiance that came to the parking lot to ask his ex-fiancée for the ring back, and 4 people ended up being killed that day? Jamie says it worked for the airlines to keep the nut jobs out of the cockpit. Protecting children is a must. Jenny says, so this means that windows can't be broken through. No more fish in a barrel with our children. Jenny and Jamie, we absolutely agree. I suspect, Ken, you would agree as well.
Yes, absolutely. So when we would talk about those teachers, if that intruder busts that glass, tries to extend a weapon into that room, gain access to a room, we would tell them, you got to fight. You got to find whatever's within your reach. You got to hit at that arm, stab at that arm with scissors, whatever. Listen, Brian, the teachers aren't cut out for that. I mean, they don't. That's not in their makeup. They don't want to. They're not want to engage in combat. It would literally create anxiety attacks. It would create tears. People would leave the training because they would be so upset at the thought of this going on. They did not want to be the last line of defense. And I knew at that time I needed them to feel safe in that lockdown room. You can't feel vulnerable in there.
And this isn't a negative critique, Ken. This isn't a negative critique. We're not saying anything bad about him. Look, it takes a special kind of mental to run to the sound of gunfire. It takes a special kind of mental to be left of bang, right? To be designing things the way they are. But once the caca hits the fan, I don't think it's fair to expect any teacher to all of a sudden have a 7th degree black belt in defending 30 or 40 kids in her classroom or his classroom. So it's not a disparaging comment. How much more do you expect teachers to want to have to do through the course of a workday? So good for you, brother, for designing something like this, right? And so what's their checklist now? In your school, Ken, as you said, you have these in your school, a district, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So now what do we...
I have those in my school.
Okay. So give me a little bit of what's it take to deploy the window armor, right? What's it take to go ahead and lock this down?
This, when it's on the window, it stays open. Somebody said, hey, I got to make this point. Somebody said, hey, why don't you just put a steel plate over the window and be done with it? Well, it's still a school.
Right.
If I'm an administrator going down the halls, I need to be able, for safety reasons
Sure.
as well, to look to that room and see what's going on. I want to know what's going on in that room instructionally.
Sure.
That's our primary purpose there. And so I think putting doors in with no windows is absolutely a mistake. It's a mistake instructionally, and it's a mistake safety. Your threat,
Sure.
There could be things going on in that room that you need to see. So anyway, we put this shutter system on there. It literally slides effortlessly. The design was designed without giving you all the gory details. It's a plastic-like type material that this thing slides on.
Right.
And literally, when I installed it, I had superintendents say, gosh, do you have ball bearings in there or anything? So it's literally effortless. It slides
Sure.
over. Once it slides all the way over, a lock drops automatically. It's locked into place. You can't move it. The lock is up high, so a student couldn't really release it.
Sure.
But a student could deploy it. And so that's why I say I don't mind teaching kids how to do these things.
Right.
If you ever hear anybody say lockdown, you just slide this over. And then we also have a secondary locking system, which I'm in favor of. I mean,
Sure.
all these are different layers. So it's different layers to protect our
Sure.
kids. Is mental health and mental health counseling and watching what's going on with your kids. And
Sure.
if anybody's posting strange things on social media, all those are different layers. All those are layers of this protecting our kids.
And Ken Nell says, we added window armor in my elementary building, and immediately my staff felt more at ease and protected. We have received only positive feedback from parents, too. So, Ken, before we run out of time, because I want to ask you a couple other questions, windowarmor.net, yes? Window Armor, WINDOWARMOR.net, to get the full information of what we're talking about, yes?
Yes, sir.
And
there's
Jenny
links
says,
there to
amen.
Facebook, we have...
I'm sorry. Jenny says, amen. We need to clone him for every school district. Well, there you go. So we're starting a clone Ken movement. Thank you very much. Shane says they just approved money for armed security in the local schools, starting training next year. So talk to me a little bit about that, because if your parents listening and you want to get involved, if your local police departments or the like, how can people, thank you, Jenny, very much. Windowarmor.net is now in the feed. Wayne, thank you. Windowarmor.net in the feed. Ken, what else can we do if we're concerned parents, if we're concerned teachers, if we're law enforcement in our local areas? What do we got? Can we just call you? Can we go onto your website and then learn how to be armed with the information to go in and talk to our school administrators? Maybe they're not as intuitive as you are. What do we got to do to go, look, these are our kids you're messing with. We're done. right? Thank you so much for the nice manicured parking spaces, but we want window armor on the doors if our kids are coming to school here. What can one do?
I think, certainly anyone's welcome to contact me. That my email address, there's a comment section where you could leave feedback. That also, we're on social media. I'll always answer, respond to things. So I'll give you as much information as I can. I think you approach your local administrators or superintendent or boards of education and say, look, we've seen this product out there. We think it's something that the school board ought to look at as a different layer. And if any school district superintendent calls me, I'm going to talk to them not just about window armor, but about layers of protection and all the things that you should be doing that work together. And, when you purchase this, Brian, or you install window armor in your district, you don't make a big to-do about it.
Right.
You don't put out press releases. You just kind of do it. It's low-key. But when parents come in that building for parent-teacher conferences, and they're in there, they're talking to teachers, and invariably they'll see it, and they'll say, hey, what's that about? The teacher will show them. In my school, I get calls. So they'll call or they'll email and say, we had no idea you did this. Thank you so much for thinking about the safety of our kids. So I think just sharing the information, making superintendents or administrators aware that this product is out there. There's nothing else out there like it. It's it's the only product of its kind out there. I'm very proud of it. I believe
you should be.
When Parkland, Florida happened is when I made the decision to retire as of December 31st, and my goal is to put these units in classrooms across the nation to provide that peace of mind that teachers and parents that they send their kids to school and it's safe. And the teachers feel that they literally are protecting those kids when they lock down in the classroom.
Absolutely. Well, I would imagine you take a job as a teacher because you want to be responsible for the positive upbringing of your students. Well, a part of that is wanting to be, to protect them physically as well. So I think it's fantastic. And I know that you have a door, a floor, and within the floor. So there's even ways where community service organizations, the Rotary, the Kiwanis, the PBA, the Chiefs of Police, American Legion, they can all come to donate what it takes to be able to sponsor a door, the window armor in some of these other locations as well. Is there not?
Absolutely. So, if a school's in really tough financial shape, but there's not, schools aren't flush with money.
Right.
We were able to afford it. I think most schools, frankly, could afford, really I'm looking at about $250 per classroom. So that's sort of a standard model. The windows, you have to customize for different size windows and stuff. So it could be less, could be more. But, that's not a lot of money when you think about $250 for a classroom door. Yep. You've got 25 kids in there. Let's say $10 per kid. It's a one-time expenditure. But your point is well taken. If they are financially strapped, you're not just tapping into a fundraiser to just your area of businesses if you're a rural school district.
Sure.
But the parents' businesses
sure.
and such. And you get people to sponsor the doors or the floor in places where there's big businesses. They might sponsor your second floor. They might sponsor your first floor. They might sponsor a wing. So there's ways to do it. I certainly would give people fundraising suggestions.
Okay.
If you want the truth about it, I would like to think that the schools put this at a high enough priority that they find a way to get it done.
Well, I got to tell you, my friend, I don't know what could be a higher priority than protecting our kids. Jamie says, Ken, I hear Shark Tank calling you. So there's another thing to think about. But in our final moment, because I know we have to let you go at the bottom of the hour to be able to toss it over to our good friend Henry Noel at Thinking Re-envisioned. So final words, Ken. What can we as parents do as reaching out to you, contacting our local school administrators and go, look, what is more important than our kids, right? Can you think of another question we should be asking them when they call? Because I'm telling you, brother, I'm going Monday morning to the school that I have in mind where my second oldest son goes and goes, what's up? What's going on here? Undelay. And yes, that's my attempt at cultural appropriation. Final words, Ken.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I would like to educate them on what this product is. And they can go in and they can say, look, I've seen this. I want you to consider it. And then they can ask questions based on what they would learn from me, which would be, what's your plan if that intruder busts
Comes
that
in,
window
sure.
and tries to reach in and grab that handle? And they could say, well, we've got a secondary locking device that would prevent them from being able to get in. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear you have that.
Right.
What if they extend their weapon into that now busted window
Right.
and start firing around the room? How do you stop that?
Yep.
Or how do you stop it when some windows have some doors have big windows in them? How do you stop that intruder from literally aiming at occupants and shooting them through that glass? And
absolutely with
you know a little bit about weapons. You shoot right through it, and you have target acquisition and casualties. So I want people to ask me any questions they have, and ask those questions of their superintendents as well. And I agree, there's not a higher priority. Let's keep the kids safe. Let's give teachers peace of mind. Let's give parents, teachers
Peace of mind.
And then let's get back to our primary mission, which is educating kids.
Ken, thank you so very much. We're up against a hard break, so I've got to run. We'll have you back on where we can spend some more time talking about it. WindowArmor.net. What I dig about it is it works, and it's invented by a guy who's passionate about what he does, and he's where the rubber meets the road every day. So he's just not passionate to be passionate. He knows that this will make a very proactive difference. All right, we got to run. Getting ready. Wayne, please put up in the link here. Thinking Re-Envision with our good friend Henry Noel. We are out. Ken, thank you so very much. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
IPMNation.com.